From Newsweek, Trump demands impeachment of crooked judge. So this story is bubbling up.
He's not the only one. Brandon Gill, too.
Brandon Gill called for the impeachment of the judge?
Yeah, he filed, I think he filed some
legislation or impeachment
articles
of impeachment
for the judge.
We are, can I just, Phil, is it okay if I say it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Civil War. we are dealing with judges that are trying to, that have declared, this judge, he declared he has equitable power to President Trump.
That's insane.
Oh, that's nuts.
And here's the question I asked in the morning, on the morning show, guys, for those that are listening. If you served in the military, my question for you is this. Actually, let me pull up the post of Millennial, because I know you guys got a picture of this here feller.
Yeah, we do.
And let me scroll down and find it.
He's
Hopefully
also
I can.
like a Harvard guy. He's like a Harvard professor or something like that.
Harvard guy, huh? And we also have the update from Justice Roberts. So
I'm thinking of a different guy. There's a couple judges.
here's my question for you guys. You're serving in the military. Yeah. So Donald Trump lands on Marine One, and security detail, they come out. Trump walks out, and he walks up to you, whatever your rank was, I don't care, and he says, "Listen, I'm giving you an order. I need this thing done now. Please go do it." In fact, he says to you, We've got a plane over there that we need prepped and ready to go. Call anyone you need to call to get it ready. We're going to have people coming in. I want you to get that plane ready now. Would you do it?" Now, as they can answer in the comments, do you guys think that if Trump went to any military member just landing there, they had no idea was showing up, and he looked at some regular guy, maybe it's an NCO, and he said, "Get that plane ready. Call who you need to call. We need it ready in 1 hour." Do you think that person would say, "Yes, sir"?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they?
Now, what if Judge Boasberg arrived in a helicopter and got out in his judge robes and walked up to an NCO and says, "Get that plane ready to go. You have 1 hour." What do you think they're going to say?
There is a significant
They'd be like,
possibility.
"What? What are you
I
talking
actually think they're going to say, "Sir, you're in restricted grounds. Identify yourself." So that's what's crazy about the idea that this lower court judge in D.C. thinks he has more power than the president, or I'm sorry, equal power. He said equal.
Well, that's the thing. They're co-equal branches of government, and yet the judges are behaving as if they are superior to the executive branch. And one of the things that I loved about Stephen Miller's interview on CNN about this issue was he brought up the fact that judges don't have the authority to stop troop movements or matters relating to foreign policy. That's at the discretion of the commander-in-chief. Once Trump invoked the authority under the Alien Enemies Act, that judge doesn't have any say over what happens next.
Well, and also Trump declared the cartels and the criminal gangs terrorists.
Exactly.
And then you're going to go to war with terrorists. And so then the law perfectly matches. It's fine.
I want you to envision. What was the guy's name? Spitzer? The guy who bombed who bombed Nagasaki and Hiroshima? I have the magazine right there.
The Enola Gay?
No, the general.
Yeah.
Which general oversaw bombing?
They have the Enola Gay
Nagasaki.
at the National Air and Space Museum in Chantilly.
It was General Curtis LeMay and Leslie Groves. I want you to imagine that these guys sitting there with their cigars are like, "Boys, load it up, put the bomb in. We're flying to Japan." And then as the plane's in midair, a D.C. court judge goes, no, turn those planes around right now. And the general goes, shucks. All right, boys, send them home. A local district court judge told us we can't fly those planes. And these aren't even presidents. These are generals. They're going to be like, "Excuse me?" And that ain't happening.
No.
The president can give me the order. You can't. But more importantly, imagine the president tells some guys, "Get on this plane. We have enemy combatants that are being sent to a foreign country that we have negotiated with." And a district court judge bangs the gavel and says, "Turn those planes around, mister." It's insane.
Yeah, the judiciary is not supposed to interpose itself in between the president and the will of the people. Like the American people, and I said this last night, the American people elected the president. The president is the only person in the United States federal government that is elected by the whole of the body politic. Everyone else is a representative of a different area or congressional district or state or whatever. The people elected the president. Clearly, they wanted his agenda implemented, and these judges, and it's multiple judges now. I mean, what?
There's a lot of judges. One judge
half a
today
dozen or something like
required that some USAID employees be rehired and their credentials given back.
Sorry, that was the general's name, General Spatz. And he oversaw Pacific Command when they bombed Japan.
And Chief Justice John Roberts obviously does not know what time it is, because it is far overdue for the Supreme Court to start slapping these guys on the hands and telling them you have overstepped your authority.
Yep.
Because there have been dozens of injunctions across the nation against Trump's policy, and the Supreme Court takes on average about 80 cases a term. They're not going to be capable of, when this comes up in June, of taking on 40, 50 cases against the Trump administration and resolving all of this in a timely fashion.
Yep.
This is intentional to slow walk the policies, and inevitably the Supreme Court's only going to take, let's say, 1 or 2 cases, and the rest of them are just going to be in injunction limbo for the entire term.
Do you think there's going to be emergency injunctions until that point? Do you think they're going to weigh in?
Trump administration should ignore these judges.
I don't think that's a good idea.
I have a joke for you guys. What do you get when you cross an out-of-control bureaucratic state of judges and other bureaucratic officials who believe that they have equal powers to a president and are trying to obstruct the popular mandate? At the same time, far-left terrorists are firebombing Tesla dealerships and calling and swatting attempted murder attempts on prominent conservatives, directly targeting them with threats of fear, violence, and death. When you cross that with an administration that won a popular mandate and is seeking to gut and dismantle that bureaucratic state and get rid of tens of millions of criminal aliens in this country, with a population also angered at the attacks against them and willing to defend themselves.
Something like Brazil.
I know what you're looking at, but I'm not going to say it.
2 words.
Civil War, I told you.
So again, I'm being a little bit hyperbolic, but if now is not, look, if it is not the craziest point as of yet since we've had these discussions, then I don't know what else you could be possibly looking for. It's one thing when a roving band of lunatics, or millions of them, like we saw in the summer, hundreds of thousands in the Summer of Love. It's one thing when they're going around smashing buildings and firebombing buildings, and we see like a mayor join in, and then the president's staff fundraises for these criminals, and then the vice president directly solicits funds for these criminals. That's kind of worrying. But right now, what we're looking at with this judge going up against Trump, it is like they are trying to use simultaneously terrorism against Elon and conservatives with the swattings, as well as administrative attacks on the Constitution. The crazy thing is, if you go to any one of these liberals, there's no argument to be had. That's why I say, or to quote Phil, there's no off-ramp. You go to a liberal and say, a lower court judge cannot instruct a president to alter his military operations. They'll go, yes, they can.
Well, what the judges aren't realizing, and that was what was so interesting about Stephen Miller's, what was it, CNN? That was a really fascinating segment, because the CNN, whatever her name is, the pundit there, and I think these judges don't realize that they are, in fact, interfering in military operations. That's what this is. When you're taking criminal gang members out of the country and putting them in prison and saying you're not going to be wrecking havoc in our country anymore, that is a military thing. And a mass deportation is a military thing. That's why it was, I think, so key that, you have Trump, you have Tom Homan, you have all of this effort to remove criminals very specifically, to remove gang members very specifically. But when it comes to your average people who the crime that they committed was illegally crossing the border and they've just been existing without issue since then, you have the new CBP Home app, which has been repurposed.
Love it.
To allow for self-deportation. What's crazy about that app, it was created under the Trump administration to allow for the quick importation of perishable goods, was repurposed under Biden to allow illegal immigration, and has now been repurposed to allow people to go home.
Yeah. I mean,
oh, man.
The CBP One app was such a scandal, and it didn't get talked about enough during the Biden administration, because people talked about, so-and-so number of people are coming in through the CBP One app. But the craziest part about that app is that there was no tracking function. Mm-hmm. You had to rely on illegal aliens to voluntarily check in, and only then would the government get their location at the time they checked in, but it didn't continue tracking them the entire time they had the app on their phone.
On their free Biden phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Their free Biden phone.
Well, I have you guys seen the commercials now that Trump is running?
Yeah.
Actual commercial advertisements.
Yeah.
Go home, use the app. You could leave now, and maybe you can come back.
Also,
And,
the
Christy
closing time video.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
great.
But Christy Nome, have you seen that she's running commercials as well?
Yeah.
Like legit commercials on TV. Go home now, and maybe you can come back legally.
It's a public service announcement.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm for it. But over these past several years, the conversations around the escalation of, let me pause and go back in time. I had a conversation in 2018 where a prominent DC Politico writer said, civil war is impossible in this country. You're stupid. The security state would have never allowed that to happen. Okay, well, here we are at the highest levels of government where Trump is directly going to war with the bureaucratic state. There is no security state anymore. There are two factions at the highest level trying to rip each other to shreds, and Trump didn't start it. They tried putting him in prison. They tried impeaching him twice. Here we are. I am kind of worried about where this ends up. I think we may see, as of right now, the most logical conclusion is going to be a high degree of terroristic insurgency from the far left, which may end up resulting in a more authoritarian right style of government, where you'll end up with security checkpoints, and you're going to end up with people likely on our side tolerating it. You know, it's fascinating when I see all these memes from libertarians where they're like, the interview I did with Donald Trump is going viral now because Trump started bombing Yemen. And Trump said, you don't need to do that. You can negotiate. I'm pretty sure that was well before they blocked the Red Sea and started bombing cargo ships with the help of the Iranian logistics.
Correct.
Not that I like that Trump is bombing the rebels, bombing the Houthis, but I also don't know. But I don't know what you do when global shipping containers are being bombed, when freighters are being bombed. But my point is, many of these people are now claiming that the right has become hypocritical because they are supporting things that a year ago they said they didn't want to support. And then once again, I just come back to I just don't care. Away with ye, weak-spined libertarians. I am not so naive. I understand. Let me put it this way. To avoid any doubt, Abraham Lincoln is the most popular president in history. When people are asked, poll after poll after poll says Abraham Lincoln's the most popular. And why is that? Because he held the Union together, I guess. He also suspended habeas corpus. Remember that?
Yeah.
Conscripted people. And he arrested the legislature in Maryland, large portions of it, because they were sympathetic to the Confederacy. Several people were arrested without charge or trial. And we celebrate that he did it all. So in the event that Donald Trump pulls a Lincoln and starts arresting far-left extremists, and we end up with a wartime president, I'm not a fan of any of these things, but I'm not so naive to be like, you just got to let the far left burn the country to the ground and let people invade.
Well, when it comes to, I kind of agree with that. When it comes to the whole bombing the Houthis thing, it's kind of like the Barbary pirate situation, you know. And Thomas Jefferson went in there and he was like, "We're not going to take this anymore. We keep trying to negotiate with you so that you let our ships through, and now we're going to go to war with you."
It was like a famous anti-interventionist, by the way.
Famous about for that, yeah, exactly. So I think that there's certainly precedent to protect shipping lanes. And Trump is
We're
already
responsible
doing
for them.
Yeah.
I mean, we have agreements with practically every country on those shipping routes that we are in charge of the security.
And then also you had Trump saying that he was going to hold Iran accountable. And I think that makes sense as well.
I have a question for the libertarians. Do we just stay out of it? Like, I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm like a literally honest question for the libertarians. When the Houthi rebels, there's an Iranian vessel providing logistics to Houthi rebels. They're effectively pulling their own version of piracy, where Iran says, we're not involved. We're just passing information along. Got nothing to do with it. And the Houthi rebels are attacking cargo vessels. Is the libertarian position we should just let them control the Red Sea and the Suez Canal and all that stuff?
The libertarian position is if we stopped supporting Israel, that would mean that the Houthis would stop, which I think is insane.
I don't
Okay, well,
think
hold
that would
on.
happen
We're a
either,
few degrees separated, but I agree with you.
That's what they'll
I
say.
agree. So my response is, sure, indeed. Right now, would the response then be, in order to stop the Houthis from attacking the Red Sea, should we announce we are defunding Israel?
No, that's weak.
Yeah, no.
No. I'm asking the libertarians. Do they genuinely believe that if we said we will no longer fund Israel, the Houthis would be like, okay, everybody, pack it in, we're going home?
They believe that if we stop supporting Israel, then literally, I'm not kidding around, they believe that if we stop supporting Israel, Israel would end up getting taken over by the Palestinians, and they believe that would mean peace in the Middle East.
But that's not going to stop the
That
attacks
wouldn't.
right now.
I think it's crazy.
It would
no,
also
it's not.
not
That's
stop
what they'll say.
the-
That's what they'll say.
It would also not stop the radical Islamists from coming for America
Not at all.
and Christians and Europe.
No, not at
Well,
all.
I don't know. Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.